especially when I was under 30. Oh my gosh, pure sucker. Um, yeah, and trusting friends about money. Um, Now there's some, a lot of people that I help through the years that I never, asked for anything back. Um, and really put out some money in expensive things, cars, several cars I gave away, all kinds of stuff. Um, but when I was under 30, I was like such a sucker. Um, I really believed my good friends and everything, especially in California. And let me tell you, in California, there's like no one you can trust, in regards to loaning them money or stuff like that. I had some really good friends when I was leaving California, and my kid was 5 months old. And I was really good friends with this mixed couple. He was black, she was white, and they were just really nice people. And we used to talk on the phone all the time, and I'd see them out and about. And, I'd known them for, gosh, probably about 2, 3 years maybe, and they were just the nicest people. And one day they called me on the phone, and he said, we're kind of in a bind, and they're going to shut our electric off. Could you help us with, like, it was like $250 or $275? And I always had money, so I'm never worried. But so I was like, well, you're gonna pay me back and all that. And oh, sure. I said, well, absolutely, I'd be happy to do it. And so they came over and picked up the money and thanked me really a lot, and all that good stuff. And uh, the place I was in, I was in a lawsuit um, against the landlord. Place got flooded. It was a so-called brand new renovated apartment, and what a mess that was. Oh my gosh. And so anyway, 2 or 3 months later, I hadn't heard from those people at all, and I was already packing stuff up, shipping it to Oklahoma, as I was getting ready to go to Oklahoma and help my Aunt Roseanne with her apartment complex and her business and stuff. And people are just beyond me. And so uh, it was, you know, I thought, I better call these folks and see if I can collect this money before I leave, because I was going to be leaving in like another 4 weeks. Oh, you did, huh? Um, and good to see you. But anyway, so it was like probably about 4 weeks before I was going to get on a plane with my daughter. And I thought, well, I better thank you for the thumbs up. I better, call these folks and you know, see if I can get my money. And so, I called them up, and they were doing great and everything, real nice on the phone. And I said, if I can, I'd sure like to get that money that I loaned you, several months back, um, because I'm moving. And they were like, oh, yeah, sure, yeah, we'll do it. Da, da, da. Let me tell you what, I called them one more time the week I was leaving, and it was like, we don't have it. And here I am, getting ready to move across the United States. Don't know when I'm coming back, because I was going to come back to pick up my cars and stuff. And that was the whole plan, because my baby sister was like, oh, it's not so bad going because you can always come back. And I'm like, well, I didn't think about that part. Yeah, all that stuff takes money and time and all that. And, you know, I didn't think about all that part, because it was really expensive shipping everything out. I shipped everything out of the house that would fit like in the box, and I shipped out through private carrier and UPS and mostly the United States Post Office. I mean, you cannot believe I moved using the United States Post Office. Um, and then left everything behind with Silvio, and he was supposed to move the rest of the stuff out of the house, which he didn't do. He apparently just used it for a party house till they like locked it up. Um, and that was really dumb. But anyway, I couldn't believe that everything, was just left. Um, some folks are just not very responsible, but anyway. But yeah, so I never got that money back, never heard from those people again. Um, and that was really shocking because, I mean, they called for my help, good friends, da 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 da. They were going to have their power shop. And I mean, it was like, wow, that's, almost $300. But, I was young and dumb to a point. Being under 30, you run around in circles a lot, I guess. And you trust people and you think people are friends, family, whatever, and super close and would do anything in the world for you. And it's not necessarily true. Um, I mean, out of all of the friends I had when I was younger and in California, there's only like one good one left in California, I guess, that I can think of. That to this day I've talked to, and it's actually helped me a lot in the past year, honestly, um, and requires no repayment whatsoever. Um, but uh, that's it. All those people that I had helped through the years, I took a girl in that claimed that her dad was beating the crap out of her all the time, and it was Ron's um, ex-wife's husband's daughter, and she was like 19 or 20, and she had come to Ron and I, and she was like, "Oh my God," her name was Darcy, and uh, she was like, "Oh my God, my dad's beating me all the time," da 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 da, and um, I felt so sorry for her, and I had this really nice apartment in the Hawthorne area, fully security, everything, security gate to the parking, security gate to the buildings, beautiful swimming pool, very quiet, nice place. And it was expensive. And yeah, and so, you know, I never confronted Gilbert Niles at all. Um, and he's still alive to this day, as far as I know. Um, and I'd been in contact with her brother for years and years. As a matter of fact, we contacted him when we went to um, mid Florida because I was looking for Ronald because I wanted to collect a car that he owed me for many, many years so that I could give it to my daughter because he owed me, you know. And I never wouldn't have a problem getting it because he stole my car years ago. And, but anyway, uh, we all knew each other real well, and Janet and Gilbert were good friends, to me too. Um, and So I never discussed any of that stuff with Gilbert. I just know that he was thoroughly pissed off with her. He probably just threw her out. So I never knew, the honest truth. I really kind of think today that she was lying. Um, and because he would have been in jail for sure, you know, no doubt. Um, and so anyway, I took her in and I thought, boy, it's going to be a rocky road because, I know her dad and everything. And so she had, just, a couple boxes of stuff, she had like 20 sweaters, some pants, just a few things, like one pair of shoes. And she was a real sweet girl, I thought. And So, I told her I would take her in, but she'd have to go to work and hopefully enroll in college. And, nobody comes to my house. If you have boyfriends or friends or whatever, they will have to meet you outside of the complex. And I'm not like giving rides everywhere. You're going to have to make your own arrangements. So, anyway, I said, I'll give you a place and, you know, I'll even, give you my bed and I'll sleep on the couch when I'm there. Because I was mostly at Ron's house and he was living in Redondo Beach at that time. So, I mean, I was just paying rent on the place I was hardly ever at. And, just to come home, change clothes, whatever, I was hardly ever there. And so, um, anyway, I took her and bought her a pocketbook because she needed a pocketbook. And man, that tractor trailer is smoking like crazy. Gee whiz. And so, anyway, I uh, took her to go look at some jobs because she wasn't 21, so she couldn't work in the clubs. And uh, and so um, I took her to a few places, looked for jobs, and then I said, well, Denny's would be the thing. Yes. My friend Bald Headed Fred used to hang out there all the time. He's like, just take her to Denny's. So we drove down to Denny's, put in an application, did interview. They just thought she was adorable. And they hired her as a waitress. And she was doing real good. I took her shopping and bought her stuff that she needed to be a waitress and, good shoes and proper clothes and all that stuff. Spent that money. She needed some makeup. I bought her some of that. And so she was working there full time. And, I told her when you really start, getting together, you can help me pay rent or you can just keep your money together and you can get a place to live. Well, in the meantime, I had, landline phone, and my phone bill is like getting really high because she's accepting collect calls from the jailhouse. And I'm like, what are all these calls? It's like LA County something, it said on there. And they're really expensive. So my phone bill goes from like, $10 a month to um like 200 a month. And I'm like, what's all these LA County calls? What does that mean? Do you know anything about that? And she's like, oh, yeah, that's the LA County Jail. And I'm like, so why are there collect calls to my house from LA County Jail? What's that for? And she said, oh, well, my boyfriend, is in jail and he doesn't have any money to call from the jail. So, he just calls collect. I said, well, you're going to need to pay the bill or it's going to stop because I'm not paying all that. So I think this guy's tractor trailer just died in the middle of the parking lot. So anyway, uh, I think she came up with most of it in a couple months. She stayed in my house for I don't know, probably 3, 4, maybe 6 months, and then and she was kind of dirty about the house, like she wasn't taking trash out and stuff. And I said, you're the only one that's here. I'm rarely here. You got to keep it clean. I have a dishwasher. Dishes go in the dishwasher, and trash has to go out. You know, and so anyway, and she had no car. Um, so it just kind of got worse as we went along. Um, she stayed working. I came home one day and she was sitting out front in my floor length black mink coat on the brickwork for the planters out front of the complex, and then had her pocketbook over the arm of my mink coat, which you don't ever carry a pocketbook over the arms, because um, it wears the fur off. It ruins the jacket. That's rule one if you have fur coats. Don't ever put handles over your elbows and stuff. It would ruin it. And so I was kind of pissed. She was sitting on the brickwork in my floor length mink and had that pocketbook up over her arm. And I'm like, okay, so what are you doing? Well, I'm waiting on a friend or something. And I said, why are you wearing my floor length black mink coat? And she's like, well, because I was cold and I just wanted to wear it. And I said, no. And so, we went in the house and, she put the coat back and got her own little jacket. And I said, please do not wear my fur coats. And back then, I didn't have any kids or anything. And so I used to buy a new fur coat every year. And I had probably 8 of them. And then I had that one black mink was a gift to me from a boyfriend that I was with for like 8 years. And so it was kind of sentimental, and it was my prettiest coat, honestly. I love that jacket. And so, anyway, I had it for so many years, I cut it in half and made a floor length mink coat for my daughter when she was a baby to keep her warm in Oklahoma. Okay. Yes, I did. And so, anyway, uh, so then one day I came home and I'm hearing all this laughing and giggling, and I walk back towards the bedroom. The door's open, and there's this bald looking guy that I think he was like Mexican or something, and her jumping up and down on my satin comforter on my bed. Okay, and I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, this is my boyfriend. And I said, okay, so why is he in my house and why are you jumping up and down on a $200 satin comforter? And she was like, oh, we were just joking around. And so I was like really bummed. And then, I was in the front parlor doing something, and she came in there and left him in the bedroom or something. And I said, look, no boyfriends. You know, you want your boyfriend, you need to go meet him somewhere else, go get a hotel, whatever it is. I don't want any people in my house. You know, that's the agreement. Or, you can go back to your dad's house. And so, it's funny because Gil had come down to my work. I was bartending at Bucks Take Five, and uh, I think it was on Hawthorne Boulevard, and he had come down one night, and I'm trying to think of who he came down with, and he started talking to me about Darcy, and he said she's a real problem, and she's doing drugs, and I'm like, really? And I said, well, I told her, no drugs, no drinking in my house because she's not of age, and no boyfriends or friends in my house. I'm just trying to help her out. And he's like, well, you do what you want, but I'm telling you, you're wasting your time. He said, that's why she's out of my damn house. And I'm like, oh. So, jeez, I bet it was shocking. And come home, find her and dude, tell me. Yeah. I mean, it was like, oh my gosh, like they were, 3-year-olds or something. And even my kids never jumped up and down on the bed like that. Okay. Um, that's a good way to you know, fall off and bust her head. But you don't do that at somebody's house. Um, And it's rare to see a satin comforter in people's houses. I liked really elegant stuff. Okay. So I had a very nice, modern looking house. I like chrome and glass and brass and glass and mirrored furniture and satin comforter and all the proper pillows stacked appropriately, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I just, was that way. And I worked hard and paid for my own stuff. No man paid for that. I did. And so, it really hurts when you're trying to help somebody and they, really disrespect you. Um, because she had nowhere to go, supposedly. Okay. So, anyway, I thought I was doing so much greatness for her. I was hoping she would pay me back for, all the money I spent, probably like $200 so that she could go to work, getting her proper clothes and shoes and a pocketbook because she didn't have one, this, that, and the other, you know, just being kind. But I never really saw any of that back. Um, you know, I, she paid for some of the phone bills, and then finally I just, you know, I think I did a call block or something to keep the jailhouse calls off the phone because it went on for months, and I wasn't getting money for it, and it bothered me because you know I mean I didn't hang out with people that go to jail. You know what I mean? And so if your boyfriend's in jail, how good a guy is that? Okay, so and I didn't know what he was in jail for. I mean, and that's another thing, you know. So, I mean, he may have been a gang member or something and done really heinous things. I don't know, but so, and I sure didn't want some dude that just got out of jail in my house. You know, I mean, geez, don't bring that upon me. But people don't care; they just don't. And but anyway, so she uh, it got pretty bad. My neighbors would be telling me stuff about what was going on next door and how that guy was coming in and out when I told her no. And I didn't know what to do. And, she was spending money, going out and stuff and things. And so I'm like, because I told her, I said, you need to buy your own food. Um, and it would be nice if you help me with rent utilities, but if you can just save your money so you can get a place to live, that'd be great. And hell, back then hotels were like 25 a night. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, you know it was like, the guy was real nice, but he had like shaved head and all this kind of stuff, and he was all of about 100 pounds. And it was like, I just don't want people in my house. I mean, I'm leasing. You know, that's really important. I can get in trouble for what other people are doing in my house. And so, um, and I didn't put her on the lease. Now, the landlord knew she was staying with me. I told him she was my daughter and that she was just staying with me temporarily. And so, anyway, that's how I didn't get charged extra rent, and that's how I didn't get, violation of lease because I just said, it's just temporary. Her dad was beating on her, kind of thing, which, it come to know years later that wasn't even true. It was just a big story to get everybody's attention, to feel sorry for her, and all that crap. And I fell for it. Um, so anyway, and Ron was cool with it. He was like, "That's great, you're helping her out," and all that. Hell, I should have let him take her in. But anyway, so because he was related to her. But anyway, so you know, I'd come in one time and there were beer cans stacked in the two windows that are viewable to the deck out there. They had a big main deck, And this is like a one-story place. And so they had a big giant main deck. It was like a big giant, square in there. And they had the pool, and you had access stairs to go down to the parking structure. Um, and I think it also had an elevator to the parking structure downstairs. Um, and So, anybody that's walking by to go to their apartment sees your windows. And they had rules about, you were supposed to, keep the original curtains. Yeah, exactly. And, it was supposed to be nice looking. Um, and certainly you didn't want to open your curtains, if you had a messy house so people would see that crap. I always kept my house very nice and neat. I didn't have a whole lot of stuff. I was young. And so I I go to the apartment to go check on the house, change clothes or whatever, look at the bills or pay the rent or something. And my God, there was beer cans stacked in the windows that were viewable there. Um, I don't even think there was windows in the back of the apartment. I think it was one bedroom, and the bedroom was in the back, and the bathroom next to it, and then the front parlor was to the right, and then to the left was the kitchen. And it was really nice, really, really nice place. And so um, there's all these beer cans stacked up in a pyramid kind of thing in the windows, in the two windows, all the way to the top of the windows. I was pissed. I was so pissed because everybody that walks by sees that crap, including the manager. And manager lived on the property and in the front of the buildings. And oh my gosh, I was so lucky I didn't get noticed for that. Um, and I told her, I said, "What in the hell are a bunch of beer cans stacked in my flipping windows for?" And she goes, "Well, because it's cute." And I said, "No, it's not cute." I said, "It says there's a bunch of drunks here. I don't even drink beer. It's not even ladylike to drink beer. And that's just inappropriate. I mean, my neighbors are seeing that. The managers see that. I'll get evicted over trash like that. What the hell's the matter with you?" And like, "You're drinking that much beer?" Probably because her and her boyfriend were drinking that much beer when I wasn't home and doing stupid crap like that. And I was thoroughly pissed. I told her, I said, "You better find a place. I don't care if you go get a hotel down on Lincoln Boulevard or what you do. You better go find a place. And maybe you can tell your jailhouse boyfriend to get a job and go get an apartment for you guys, whatever, because it's got to stop." And so I had like hell getting her out. Every time I go back home, I would say, "Did you find a place?" You know, and it was horrible. It was so bad. And this is how much the price I paid for helping somebody. It was so bad that I had to go to the manager and I said, "Can you evict her?" And they said, "Well, she's not on the lease." And I said, "Well, I want her out because I think she's bringing that guy in all the time. And, I'm at my boyfriend's house all the time in Redondo, and I'm just paying rent for nothing, you know. And she really needs to do something. I helped her out. I got her a job, I can't do anymore, you know, and I just want my place back alone to me." And so they said, "Well, the only thing we can do is evict you." I said, "Can you do like some little fake notice, hang it on the door or something?" "Nope, we would have to evict you." And I'm like, "Oh, Jesus." So I said, "Okay, evict me." So they did. They posted the house after I left and Darcy called me over at Ron's house, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you got an eviction." And it read on there about stacking beer cans and bringing people in and all this kind of stuff. And I said, "Well, it's the way it goes." I said, "You better get a place." I said, "That pisses me off that I'm getting evicted because of you, because I helped you. And, I haven't even got paid for it. You still owe me for phone bills and everything else. And, all I did was try to help you." And so, a couple weeks went by and she, moved her stuff out. And then I moved mine out too and put it in storage, you know, and that sucked. Um, but that's what I got for helping somebody. And, I saw her, several times after that. When she became 21, she came down to one of the clubs I was working, and, it was real friendly and nice. And I just kind of was like, mm. And, Gilbert came to me again, and he was like, "I heard you were having problems with my daughter." And I said, "Yep." I said, um, I tried to put her out and she wouldn't even leave. I spent a lot of money on her. He said, "I tried to warn you." He said, "You're wasting your time." And that jailhouse boyfriend of hers, that's the biggest problem of all. And he's like, "I'm surprised you even got her to go to work." I said, "No, she was working because I went down and saw her actually working." Because my friend Bald Headed Freak used to love to take me to Denny's. He loved Denny's, and that was like his favorite hangout. He liked coffee and pie and stuff, and went down there many times. She was actually working, and she was really doing a good job. I mean, they really liked her, and she was making good tips. But that's what I got for helping somebody. And then, you know, when I moved to Oklahoma, I had a pending lawsuit, huge lawsuit, um, and it was getting ready to settle, or I'd have to fly back and go to court. And my lawyer called me, and I used pretty much the same lawyer. I had 3 cases in like 4 or 5 years, and this guy was a really good lawyer, Jim Migler in California. And he'd called me one day, and I was living in Oklahoma, and he says, "Well, Red," he said, "on that lawsuit." I said, "Yeah," and I was like really nervous because I was states away in Oklahoma. And he says, "We can go to court, or they have offered to, like buy you out." And I'm like, "Really?" And I said, "What kind of money we talking?" He said, "Well," he's like, "it's gonna be like, I don't know, it was like 40,000 or some crap, or 50,000, I don't know." And so, um, it was a third, and a third, and third to the doctors, a third to the lawyer, and a third to me. And I said, "So what does that, tally up to?" And he said, "Well, you're probably looking at, you know, around 20K." And I'm like, 20K? I was like, I couldn't even imagine 20K. I was under 30, dude. you know, I was just in my 20s, man. And I had a brand new kid, and I'm like, God, I could like buy a house. I could do a lot of stuff, you know. I could buy a new Camaro. I'm like, that would be amazing if that would really happen. But I said, "Can you push for more money?" And he said, "Well," I mean, he says, "You can go to court and you probably get, 150K out of the deal." And I said, "Wow, I don't know, because I would have to fly back home and all that." And he says, "Well, I mean, and you never know what a day in court does. You never know what kind of mood the judge is in. You never know." And I said, "Well, what do you mean you never know?" And he's like, "Well, you just never know. You know, you could go into court and come out with nothing. It's just, you never know." And I'm like, "Well, gee, what do you suggest?" He said, "Well, they're offering some pretty good money." And yeah, it's loaning money is best not to do with family or friends. Yeah, don't let them fool you. It's really amazing. I mean, I've had friends in my life that will give me money and never ask for anything back. And then I've had friends that loan me money and I paid them back, and because it develops good credit if you pay them back, because you can always go back again and usually borrow from them again, and they totally trust you because you pay them. And so anyway, uh, he says, "I'll see what I can do. Are you willing to settle out of court?" Oh, how cute. Um, and so they added new YouTube emojis or something. So, and so um, I said, well, see if you can push for a little bit more money, and then how long does it take to get? And he said, just, whenever we settle, do you want me to settle it? And so I said, yeah, I mean, if it's going to be like that kind of money or whatever, just do it. And he's like, okay, let me see what I could do, and I'll get back to you. So then, after about a month goes by, he calls me and he says, okay, I got settlement for you, and I'll go ahead and I'm going to overnight the papers to you to Oklahoma from California. And then, as soon as you sign all that, then, we'll get the payment to you. Because we got to pay the doctors and then pay, me and all that. And I'm like, well, take a tip, and so anyway, uh, he says, you FedExes and stuff. I get it. I read it and I'm looking at the numbers and stuff, and I'm like, this doesn't even make sense to me. I don't understand it, but I'll just sign it because this lawyer's awesome. He was great. He handled two other cases previous to that, and it was just incredible. Oh, that's okay. No problem. I'm glad you're here, Roxanne. And so, anyway, I mailed the stuff back, and I didn't tell anybody, you know. And so I get this letter in the mail from Jim, and I open it up, and it's a check for close to $30,000. And I'm looking at it and looking at it, and I have a brand new kid. I have a 5-month-old kid. I'm like, oh my gosh, single parent. I don't get child support, welfare, any of that. And my aunt was helping me out, and she was kind of like, a boa constrictor. And people were warning me that knew her for years, like, watch out because she'll sneak up and bite you like a snake. And I'm like, no. And oh, she was getting bad. She used to drink after she got off work. She owned all her own businesses and had a huge amount of money. And she was, really helping me a lot. Okay. I'm never going to say that she didn't help me a lot, but it was kind of like the payback is a MF. You know what I mean? She was so horrible when she'd start drinking, her little glasses of wine after work and would call me and give me hell from her place in Tulsa. And it was just like, you're a mom, you should do this, you should do that, and da da. And it was like, what the hell? Everything was wrong, Um, and I was doing what I was supposed to do. I worked every day. My daughter was in a Christian daycare, and I dressed appropriately for work. I was trying to learn the abstract and title business, which I really didn't have a lot of interest in. Um, and you know, I hated where I was living totally, the whole state. I did it just it was such a culture shock for me because it wasn't California. There's no beaches, there's no nice clubs, there's no Hilton. It was just dirt and about 4 or 5 businesses in town in a store called Walmart. They didn't even have a Kmart, or any of that other stuff, or Saks Fifth Avenue, nothing. It was just like, and the big hangout in town was the Sonic Drive-In, which is a hamburger joint. It was like, oh my gosh. And so it was really a dud. But yeah, it was just like coming from the fast lane, just going to almost totally a stop, a dead stop. So, you know, it was really exciting. I was also managing her apartment building, so I got a free apartment for managing the apartment building. She had loaned me my Uncle Rufus's furniture that she had in the garage out of the lake house or whatever that was really beautiful mint antique furniture, and I returned it the same way. Beautiful, beautiful furniture. And I don't even like antique furniture. Nobody wants to move it. It's too heavy, and it's just too delicate. I really hate antique furniture. And I was very lucky that I raised my kid great because she could have just destroyed it. It's hard. You have to make sure to raise your kids right and the respect things. But anyway, so it was pretty amazing. I said, man, if that money really comes, I could really do it. So when I got the check, I freaked out. It was like real. Kept looking over, going, wow. And so I had called my so-called best friends, the Browns, Linda and Mike Brown, and he was also a mechanic. I met him through my Aunt Roseanne because she used to send me to him to fix the car that she bought for me. It was never put in my name, and so yeah. So I said, I got this settlement from California, and I never thought I would ever get any money out of it. And you know, I got a check right here, and they're like, "Wow, that's great." How much is it? And I'm like, it's almost $30,000. And I was like, this could do so much for me. I could buy a house. Um, I could buy a car. Um, I could, buy all kinds of fabric to make my daughter pretty clothes, and I could just do so much with this. And so, you know, I uh, let's see, I hadn't opened my salon yet. I was transferring my hair license at the time, and so I was like, man, I could open, a hair salon and all this. This guy, I'm gonna tell you, this guy, those people ripped me off so bad. I totally trusted those people and just thought they were like family to me, and da da. And I even dated Mike Brown. Um, it was weird. Him and his wife had a so-called open marriage. It was so weird, um, really weird, um, and some more young and dumb stuff. But anyway, I fell for that too. But anyway, so Mike says, you better be careful. You know, what have you done with that check and all that? I said, I haven't done anything with it yet. I said, I'm trying to decide what I'm going to do with it because I don't know if I go to a bank um, that I can cash it if they'll give me all that money, right there. And so they're like, oh, probably not. They're going to make you deposit it. And he said, as soon as you deposit that money, your Aunt Roseanne is going to find out. And boy, it's going to be all over. I said, so who cares? I'm an adult, I'm over 18. Um, and, it's my money. It happened before I even came here. This was an ongoing thing. And he's going, well, just get ready because if you put it in the bank, everybody talks and the whole town will be talking. They'll be like calling her, going, oh, your niece like has, like almost $30,000 in the bank, and you're helping her and all that. And I told him, I said, hey, I'll pay her back. I don't care. I can afford to pay her for the car she bought for me for $500, a used car, and that never was put in my name. I can afford to pay her rent, piece of cake. Um, I can, pay my own phone bill, my own utilities now. I can do my own stuff. I can open my salon. There's a lot of things I could do here. I said I could like buy a house here, easy. And I said I can buy my own car. I could buy a brand new Camaro if I feel like it. And so he's like, I'm just warning you. And so then the next day, I guess Linda called me and she was like, so, I think Mike's right. He's telling me about, that money and everything. And your best bet is to, um, you know, I wouldn't put it, in the local bank because they'll just call Roseanne and tell her. And I was like, well, I mean, why would a bank be calling and telling my business to mine? And she's like, well, small town. People talk. And I said, well, that's just strange. I'd want to sue a bank that did that, disclosing my personal info, you know what I mean? And so, I mean, I came from California. People sue all day long for the most stupid crap. They just sue. That's how we solved that problem. But anyway, so, um, they talked me into so called cashing the check for me. But then they claimed, oh, well, we got to, put it in the account so it clears because it's out of California and da 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 da. Da. And so, um, uh, I said, well, I mean, the check's good. There's no doubt about that. And they're like, oh no, what, you know, it'll be okay. In the meantime, if there's anything you need, we'll just, take you and, write a check for you for whatever you need. I'm like, well, first thing I'm gonna do is go to Walmart, you know. And so we went to Walmart, and it was like near Christmas. And I said, first thing I want to do, because you guys are my family, my friends, da 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 da, and you're just great to me, better than my own family, da da da. And I said they had 5 kids, and I said, um, the first thing I would like to do is how about if I buy all the kids bicycles? And they had kids from like, I think Cody was like 6 or 7 years old. He was just little, might have been 5, and then all the way up to like 16 years old. And they had like all boys. And so, um, uh, I said, I would like to buy all your kids a brand new bicycle for Christmas. How about that? And she's like, well, I mean, you can if you want, but I mean, they have bicycles. I said, well, I think I would like to buy them all brand new bicycles. And so we picked out a whole bunch of bicycles, and then I bought this game I never got to play called Trivial Pursuit, and it was expensive for that game. And I said, we could all play this, and then I bought a Monopoly game because I like to play Monopoly, and these people, they could get into that. They had the big picnic table for a dinner table. I talked about that in the vlogs before, and so, um, I went and I bought red Mary Janes for my little girl. I bought like every size, and she was like 7 or 8 months old. I bought every size, all the way to like um that she could wear for like till she was like 2 years old. I bought every single one. And then I bought a bunch of fabric so I could make some dresses for her, fabric and lace and stuff. And then uh, I bought her a Teddy Ruxpin. It was this new thing that came out, and you could put a cassette tape in it or something, and the bear would talk and move its mouth like the animals in um, something country at Disneyland, where you go on that and watch the show, and all the animals would sing and all that stuff. I think it was Bear Country Jamboree or something like that at Disneyland. And yeah, and so um, I was really excited to get that, and Sam Walton had cut this big deal on the Teddy Ruxpins. Now they were like $100 in California, you know, and so this new store that I'd never heard of in my life, this Walmart. It wasn't Kmart. I thought it was so weird. And it said everything made in the USA. It had signs on top of every rack and every shelf. And so it was just a really weird store. It was like Kmart, but without all the plastic furniture kind of thing. It was really different. And oh, he was a nice man. He drove an old truck, like an old truck, and he wore coveralls and a hat. That's right, just a regular old dude who's very nice. And he always was going in the stores and stuff, and you wouldn't even know it was him if you worked there. He would walk up to you and say hello and ask you your name, and if you're having a nice day. And he was just a really nice dude. My dad made special arrangements to meet with him and flew from California because he wanted to know his secret. He wanted to know what the deal was behind his business because he found it very intriguing. And they didn't have Walmarts in California, okay, back then. And so, uh, yeah. So anyway, uh, I, uh, um, I got the Teddy Ruxpin. It was only like $37, and like I say, they were like 79 or something like that in California, 79 or 100 bucks, something like that. And so I was so excited because I thought my baby would just love that, and it would help her like go to sleep. And I put shelves up in her bedroom with her crib, and I picked this thing up high so she wouldn't get to it and bust it up. Um, and it would be like looking over her crib, and it would tell her, stories or sing to her or whatever. And I thought, God, it'd be so adorable, you know, and that maybe it would like put her to sleep or something. And so that was so exciting to get that. And then I got like a karaoke microphone type thing with a box so that she could she loved music and loved to dance and sing. And so it was really cute when she started walking. This thing was the coolest. She would be like singing along with this thing. It was too cute. And uh so we did a few Walmart trips. I bought them groceries one time. I said, let's go down and buy a bunch of groceries, and barbecue stuff, for your house. So we got a big barbecue. Did that, and Linda wrote a check for that. And then Mike had told me about a car. He said, I found you a car. I got you a car. I'm like, really? He said, yeah. He said, go down and look at it. And it was at this little tiny car lot. The guy had about, you know, maybe 8 cars there or something. Mike claimed he was a good friend of his and all that. Went down there, and he had this 77 Camaro. It was an old Camaro. And it was lacquer red. I mean, it was righteous. It had white seats, black carpet, and it was really weird because it was like generic. We never could figure out what kind of Camaro it was because it just had Camaro on there. It didn't say, an LT or a Berlinetta or any of that kind of stuff. It just was Camaro. And so the guy told me this big story of, well, my customer brought it to me because he took it away from his son. He custom ordered it, and that's why it has the white seats and the black carpet and the red paint, and it was special ordered that way. And he just didn't want his son driving it. He thought he'd get killed in it, so he took it away and brought it to me. It's got um, three what was it 350 small block Nova engine put into it, so it's really racy, and uh had a, a 4 bell carburetor on it and all this stuff. And I was like, wow. And I got to drive this car, and this sucker didn't even have power windows, man. That was the worst part about that car. I love that car, loved it for years. It was stolen from me many years later. I had put like over $20,000 into that car, but in the time I owned it. But it did not have power windows. That was the bad thing about it. I was like, God, who has a car that doesn't have power windows? I mean, my convertible that I had in California was not power windows, but it was also 71. And I loved that car. Her name was Samantha. My Sport Coupe Racer convertible. God, what a beautiful car. And then had the two Firebirds, the anniversary special, and the Jayhawk, the black one, with a floor shift built in New York that I left back in California, along with the Fiat when I was supposed to go back and get him and never did. And anyway, that was sad stories too. Anyway, so I said, wow, okay, so um, yeah, I kind of liked the car. And I said it had honeycomb rims on it, um, silver honeycomb rims that had silver grill on it, which I later did in gold and stuff. And I put black grill on and then did gold, made the honeycomb rims gold. And so anyway, um, I said, yeah, okay. So how much do I owe you? Because Mike said he, you know, paid for it already or whatever. He said, no, I still need the rest of the money. Or he acted real funny. He said, no, I got to have 1,600 or something. Car theft. Oh, it was stolen. That car. I've had so many cars stolen, you'd never believe it. I could just go on and on and on about all the cars I've owned that people stole. And so, anyway, I had a car for a lot of years, a lot of years. And so, um, anyway, it sounded kind of weird because I'm like, so how much money did Mike pay on this car? Is it paid for in full? I'll just take it. And he's like, oh no, I have to get, my money on it. And I'm like, well, how much did Mike give you? And he never quite said. I don't think Mike gave him any money, honestly. And this car, um, I think he wanted 1,600 or $2,200, and Mike claimed he'd like paid for it or put a deposit on it, and I don't think he paid shit. And so, I mean, hell, it was 77. It was old. And so, anyway, I said, yeah, that's a cool car. I could go for that. I've always wanted one, when they were brand new. I've always wanted one, but, when I was a kid, but, I never imagined I would have one. Um, and I'm glad I got it, in my 20s because um, I might have been an idiot if, that would have been like my first car, a fancy car like that, because I probably wouldn't have, acted right in it. Um, so I was glad I was like old enough to have a car like that kind of thing. You know what I mean? And so anyway, I went and I think the guy gave me 2 or 3 payments on the car for that money, and so I paid him um, like 2 payments the first time I went down there, and about a month later, I went and I paid the car off, and that was it. And so I went and I registered it, insured it, and then I put it, away, like hid it, and Mike's like, boy, when Roseanne finds out, she's gonna blow a head gasket, because I still had her car too, and that she had, so-called bought for me. That was never put in my name, um, and because that was the big thing on the phone, I'll buy you a car, if you'll come to Oklahoma. I'll give you a free place to live, and I'll do this and I'll do that. You don't have to worry about a thing. Da 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 da. And don't believe everything people tell you. But anyway, I mean, she was very gracious. Trust me. She put out a lot of money for me, and didn't have to do that. And she just felt sorry for me because I was a single parent like her when she was young, and it was just really so hard to cope being in Oklahoma and leaving California. It was just really so hard for me. But anyway, boy, I tell you what, um, that big car that I had, that big Ford, It would fishtail in the ice and the snow. The weather was so sucky in Oklahoma. It was just horrible. And it was a little podunk town. They didn't like really plow the roads a lot. You had to literally like dig your car out of the snow just to get it out of the drive, and it was just ugh. So um, I had put big wide tires on the car on the Camaro and stuff. As I got really spooked one night, I had gone and picked up my daughter after work at the Christian daycare, and then we went. I don't know where. Went somewhere. It was nighttime, and just in a little town there. I probably took her to a little restaurant or something for the heck of it, and um, so the car fishtailed down one of the little streets and scared the poop out of me. I'd never experienced that because we didn't have weathers in California unless you drove to like Big Bear in the mountains or something. And I'd done that several times in my life, but I didn't live around that kind of stuff. So I didn't know much about weathers, driving in the weathers and stuff. And when that car fishtailed, scared the living poop out of me. And so I thought, you know, I'll drive the Camaro next time when the weather's bad. So I started driving the Camaro. And boy, when I opened my salon, I had the Camaro parked out front. And one day, this really mean girl that managed one of Roseanne's offices, the one there in Pryor, had come down and she said, Roseanne wants, the big car back. I said, that's fine. And I said, here's the keys. And she went and got the car. She was looking at me like, I was going to beg and plead. Like, no, you know, Roseanne paid for the car and she said it was mine, but she didn't put it in my name, so it's not mine. I learned my lesson years before that when I was with Ronald, and I paid for the Lincoln, and Lincoln was mine. And he turned around and told me, if you leave today and go with Diana, don't let the door hit you in the butt because you can leave the Lincoln here. And I was like, excuse me, it's my car. Yeah. Um, don't fall for that one either. If that crap's not in your name, it isn't yours, and they can put you in jail over it when you take off and drive it. So get your own car in your own name. Really, seriously. Be a step ahead. Because you never know what people will do. The only one you can trust is you. So anyway, so they put it in the man's name. Put it in what man's name? I don't understand. So anyway, I know back before you had to put it in the man's name, not the wife's name. I wasn't married to Ron. We were together for years and years, go back and forth. The biggest problem with that was he drank. And he liked to drink every day. He was a carpenter and he loved to go after work to drink. And sometimes he didn't come home till 2 in the morning, you know. And it was aggravating because, I would cook dinner all the time, make a big nice dinner, and he never showed up, you know. And it was one of those deals where you had to call every bar in town to see if he'd been there or if he'd left or how long ago he was there to try to figure out when he was coming home, you know. And that was the biggest problem. And I'm gonna tell you, if you're with somebody that's a drinker, be very careful, or a drug addict, because it's going to get you absolutely nowhere. You cannot save them. They're just going to do what they're going to do, you know, and that's all there is to it, you know. But that was the biggest problem with Ron and I was, he'd disappear. God, he'd say he was going to the store and he'd be gone the whole day on the weekend. We'd have stuff planned that we were going to go read on the beach, whatever, and he would just freaking take off to go to the store and never come back till like late, you know. And I always thought he was running around with other girls or whatever. His love was liquor. He loved being in the clubs, just drinking. I mean, there's lots of times I caught him in the clubs, but he never had a girl sitting next to him or was dancing with a girl. The only time he ever danced was when he danced with me, really. But I was like, wild and crazy jealous And it was like, he's got to be with somebody else. But anyway, so yeah, you can't fix them. You cannot fix them. I've tried to fix people that had addictions and stuff through my life, and I promise you, it's just I leave it to the doctors and the person, because the person has to want to quit and make things better. You cannot fix it, and it will just drag you through the mud, wear out your nerves. It's so much problem. It's way too much drama, way too much babysitting. It's just too much to handle, and I thought I was just a miracle worker when I was just young, you know. But once you have kids, when I was never supposed to have kids in my life, once you start having kids, you got to start paying attention to kids and not all this other bull crap. So I didn't intend on being with anybody because, you know, I had a kid to raise, and my life was going to be different, you know. Um, I didn't have time to be babysitting people like that. I didn't want drinkers around my kids or drug heads or, you know, any kind of stuff like that. I wanted like the perfect world. But anyway, so, you know, uh, after a few months, you know, um, I told Linda, I said, well, I want to get the rest of my money because I'm looking at a couple houses. So can you, you know, figure out a way to get the rest of my money? I just want it, you know, cash, check. I prefer cash, or whatever. She's like, well, that's a lot of money to withdraw and all that, you know, if you were to do that, you know, but I'll write you some checks for this, that, whatever. She had to write me a check for my car insurance. She had to write me a check for the balance on the car. And then I tried again to get my money. And she was like, well, you don't have any money left. And she whoops out this ledger that's got all this list of stuff and says there's nothing left. And I'm like, there's no way there's nothing left. And on top of that, Mike, we were driving around one day and Mike says, look, and it was like a week after I got that money. And he says, look, he said, can I borrow $5,000 to buy a tow truck for my business so I can do um, uh, Arkansas and Oklahoma. The tow truck thing's big money right now, and I could be on call 24 hours, 7 days, and it would really help me in my mechanic business too. But it's huge money, you know. And I was like, I would, but you know, no. And he was pissed. Okay, but he took it anyway. You know, Linda had asked me for it, and I said, well, I would loan it to you before I would ever loan it to Mike, because I just don't trust Mike. He's flighty and fiery, and you know, but next thing you know, that money was gone too. So I ended up with no money out of about close to $30,000. I had probably spent maybe 5,000 total. I don't know, out of like $30,000. Yeah, that was bullshit. And a year later, after I had my salon, you know, I had a water bill due and stuff. And so I called Mike and I said, Mike, I said, I got a $60 water bill due on my shop. I was wondering if I could get some of that money you owe me. And he said, you don't call me for nothing. I don't owe you nothing. And uh, I should come down and pick up your damn Camaro and dump it in the middle of Lake Hudson with my tow truck. Now, these were my good friends that were like family to me, wonderful, and I trusted and all that. And because I was under 30 and I fell for that, you know, um, I trusted those people entirely. You know, just thought they were wonderful, great friends and all that, and they freaking stole from me. And I had a baby. Why would you do that to a young mother? You know, and but people will do it. So I never got any of that money. Um, and you know, it just I didn't know that I could sue them, you know. because they deposited in their account, so there was the proof right there. You know damn well suckers didn't have almost 30K cash to hand over to me, at their house. So, I didn't realize I could really sue them, and I was kind of scared. Yeah, and I was kind of scared of them because, I was living there, and I knew I wasn't going to stay in Oklahoma long. Um, I eventually, applied at another college out of state for engineering and was waiting on approval for all my financing and all that, which I got that while I was still going to the other military college out in Claremore. And uh, I got sick repeatedly from having the salon because everybody come to me sick to have their hair done. And so, like, I got the germs and my baby got the germs. We were repeatedly at the emergency room, and I was just tired of it. I think I had strep like 20 times, and I said, I'm done. I'm just done having salon. Forget it. I'm done. I make good money. I was working 7 days a week, making money. And so I had people that were repeated customers, made appointments with me and all that. I mean, I was making money. But it wasn't real good money like in California, where you do haircuts for $35 and perms for 75 to 200, and all that. It was way cheaper, man. Oh my God, it was terrible. And so, I lost all that money. Never was paid any money out of that. Never was paid a thing, you know, all these years later, and not a sorry, nothing, not crap. I just cannot believe those people ripped me off like that. And then somebody made some comment years later when my family members went, well, that deal with Browns, and then even Roseanne and I met for lunch one time. Uh, Probably a year later, I was passing through Tulsa or something, and I called her up and stopped by her office. She wanted to take me out to lunch or dinner or something. I said, okay, great. And when we went to lunch or dinner, she said, oh, and the Browns, what you did to the Browns. And I said, what? I said, the Browns stole from me. And she was like, yeah, sure. It was so bad. So on top of that, they badmouthed me to my dad's sister. And it was just like, oh my gosh. And all these years later, I should have, put him in jail over that, because one, it was over $500. You can file on people if they steal more than $500 from you. And you know, Other than the fact my uncle was the biggest lawyer in the state of Oklahoma, I could have used him. And he was local. And But I was scared. I was scared, that Mike was really going to pick up my car and dump it in the middle of Lake Hudson out in Salina. I was scared because I was a brand new parent and I had a kid. I didn't want any danger to come to my child, and I trusted these people. So all I really had out of the whole deal was the Camaro, which I had for years and years and years and years until it was stolen at another person's house that I trusted, that I worked with. It was manager of a strip club in Huntsville, Alabama. Oh yeah, that's another long story. But yeah. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I've helped lots and lots of people that said they would pay me back and then didn't. I've helped a huge amount of people that I never asked for anything back and just did it in hopes that they would do right. And like 90% of them don't do right. You can help them all you want, and 90% of them are not going to do right. You turn around, you find out they bought drugs with it. You turn around, they went out and shopped with it. You turn around and no, they didn't buy food for their kids, or people will lie and lie and lie, and they'll just use you, you know. And the worst part is the beggars. When you have money and have nice things and cars and everything else, the beggars. God, when I had my big house and I had 6 cars in the driveway, oh my God, I'd be working in the yard and strangers would be going, "Hi, can I rent a room?" And could I have $10? And it was constant. Can I have a car? I used to get that a lot. Can I have a car? Um, But yeah, and I gave away 2 cars while I was living there. Three cars I gave away when I lived in Arkansas, and in Memphis. I gave away 3 cars to people to help them. Yeah, gave them away free, just so they had wheels. Because in the South, you really gotta have a car. It's not like California. We could take a bus. You can roller skate, you can skateboard, you can ride bicycle places. But in the South, it's not quite that way. The weathers are bad, the roads are bad. They're just not designed for all that. And most places don't have sidewalks. That was the worst problem with Pryor was it didn't have sidewalks unless you were right downtown by the courthouse and stuff. Otherwise, it was dirt and grass. Yeah, and most places you were lucky to have a paved road. Otherwise, all the rest of it was literally dirt roads. It was so strange to me because I grew up in California. We had roads. We had real streets, real curbs, real sidewalks. We had bike lanes, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so but yeah, I had helped people so much through the years. It's can I borrow this? Can I borrow that? Can I borrow this? I've only had very few pay me back. My boss, James Wallace, he's probably deceased now. Uh, uh, the last time I was back home in California, I went and run costumes in the old Harvey's Club, and he was managing there. It was really funny to see him all these years later, and I worked there when I was underage with Fake ID. But yeah, it was the greatest foot in the door was to know the manager from a million years ago. So, I was definitely getting in that club to run costumes while I was there in California all these years later. But anyway, we were at Leroy's all night gambling joint. It was a private club down in like Compton, and um, it was one of 2 clubs that he had. I had been to the first one, and then he moved it to another place because he didn't want the authorities to get wise to it and all that. And it was you had to be a member to get in and stuff. And he had it was like a little casino in there, and that's where he went when the clubs closed at 2 in the morning in California. Was to Leroy's or the Merry-Go-Round down in Santa Monica. They were private places. You had to be a member, and so it was ultra secret. So anyway, all of us from strip clubs, managers, bartenders, dancers, whatever, went to the all night club at Leroy's and after work. And I mean, you were going to be there till daylight. You'd say, I'm going for a half hour, an hour. Oh no, you were always there till freaking daylight. And it's like he never closed, only till the last person left. And so James was a big time gambler. God, he loved to gamble. And he would go in there with a lot of money, with thousands. And one night I was up there and I had, I think, $1,400 cash on me. And I was not big on gambling. I worked in Vegas before all that and I hated it. And I lost money in Vegas and I said, no more. I will never gamble again. And because it's rigged. And so, anyway, James was up there and he was playing craps at Leroy's. And, he came to me and I was back in the kitchen and Leroy always cooked. That was the greatest attraction was go by Leroy's, maybe have a drink or two, and eat the food. He'd always have some kind of food, they fresh cooked that him and his girlfriend fresh cooked, and so it was free. So Leroy's like, "Hey, come by tonight," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'll be by." And so you'd go down there and see all your friends and everything that you worked with and John, and the first thing I do is hit the kitchen, man, and get some free food and have a drink and visit with Leroy and his girlfriend and some of my other friends, and then I would leave. And so, because once you get off work, at 2 in the morning when the clubs close, God, you're just wide awake. And Denny's is not that big of a deal, not really exciting place. So James came to me in the kitchen, and I was eating some food and talking to Leroy, and he says, "Hey, Red," he said, "You got any money on you?" I said, "Well, I always have money on me." And he says, well, can I borrow it? And I'm like, why? And he said, man, I'm on a roll. I'm on a roll. He said, can I borrow some money from you? How much you got? And I said, well, I got, like over 1,000. He said, really? Can I borrow it? And I'm like, and I'm figuring, well, this is the main guy over all the, clubs that Big Mac had. Okay, so, and this guy is good for us. It's not like he's going anywhere. He's my big boss over my manager. I'd known James for several years, working with him and stuff. And so I thought, well, I mean, when do I get it back? And he said, I'll have it back in 24 hours or less. I said, you sure? And he's like, trust me. And Leroy looked at him. He said, you better be sure. And I knew when Leroy looked at him and told him that I knew he better damn well be sure because Leroy was going to go collect it. Because Leroy adored me. Well, he was a very dear friend of mine. And so, anyway, I thought, well, okay, Leroy's witness to this. So I gave him $1,000, okay, cash. And he runs back out to go play that, and he's having a blast. I end up leaving. He was still shooting craps. So, anyway, about 7 o'clock in the morning, there's a knock on my door, and it's James Wallace with cash on the barrelhead, buddy. The entire amount. And I said, oh my gosh. And he goes, I told you I would pay you back. And I said, boy, you sure did. And he paid me back. I said, well, thank you. And he said, hey, thank you. I appreciate you very much. He said, I sure had a lot of fun at Leroy's Club. And I said, great. So, I believed. I believed then, because I could give somebody a huge amount of money and I got it back. Huge in less than 24 hours. So I was young and I believed. And even then, I was under 21. I had fake ID working in the clubs. So when I did that loan, I was under 21. I just believed in people when I was young. I trusted them. I believed in what they said. And most of the time, they were freaking liars and used me. And so, I mean, if I had to do it over again, I wished I'd have talked to somebody that warned me in advance about all that because they will. They'll take advantage. If you're under 30, they will lie their butt off to you. They will tell you any story. They will tell you they've been beat. They will tell you that, somebody's going to kill them and they've got to run away and hide and they need the money. They'll tell you that their kids are starving. They'll say anything. And they're probably lying. That's the bad part. They'll borrow and say the utilities are going to get shut off. So you're their good friend if you'll loan it to them. And they'll pay you right back on a certain day of the week, on payday and all that. And they don't. I'm telling you, there's very few people that ever paid me back that promised to pay me back. I'm thinking like 3 people ever in my life that actually paid me back out of God, probably hundreds of people that I helped out that they were supposed to pay me back. There's many, many, many that I helped out through the years that I never asked for anything back. Okay, never did because I was just trying to help, people that were struggling. You know, did they disappoint me? About 90% of them. They didn't follow through, and it was like, man, you just can't guarantee what people will do. Like, not everybody's real straight up. Um, People will talk some poop. And now, all these years later, with meth and all these other things that people are into, heroin's the new thing now. Apparently, in this area, the heroin's getting really bad. And I was like shocked. I'm like, heroin, that's an old timey drug. Who does heroin? But apparently, that's a big thing now. And once you get on heroin, that party's over. Forget it. But yeah, drunk or sober, When I drank years ago or was sober, I'm telling you, any money deals I did, that's how they went down. It didn't make a difference. It's just the people were flaky, and you just can't trust everybody. And it's so hard. My dad had said something years ago. I said, well, you ran your business by yourself, for years. So why did you hire a secretary? And he said, well, that it's because I had trouble asking people for my money. So I paid somebody to collect it. And I thought, well, because my dad was never, you know, he was not that kind of guy to be going up and going, hey, you owe me money. And how about that money you owe me for those classes? And, I can't let you come to any more classes till you pay your bill up or something. He wasn't that kind of guy, you know. Um, so I thought, wow, hmm, you know, and even when you loan people money and you get the guts to even ask them, hey, could I get a few bucks? Um, and hoping that you at least get a few bucks or all of it if you just asked. And most of the time they're like, I don't have it. I used to charge accounts with the dancers. Somebody talked me into that in Huntsville, and they said, you'd make a huge amount of money because we did charge accounts, and we charge a little extra on top to charge it, and they have to pay the next time we see them, and all that. And I had this little book, and I had probably had a total of like $3,000 or $5,000 in charges to Memphis dancers. Okay, that I knew and worked with. Okay, and I, even the ones that took off and disappeared, and I've caught them years later. I'm like, hey, I had George with me one day, Babe's dad, uh, and we went into some place on accident, a tattoo shop or something, and there was a girl there that owed me like $200, and exactly. And I said, whoa, I said, this chick is over here at this tattoo shop. And she said, yeah, I quit dancing. I was like too far out on the drugs and the drinking, so I quit. So I'm doing tattoo work. And I said, great. I knew tattoo work was expensive. Okay. And I said, great. I said, you still owe me like, 200 something dollars. Can I get some of that, please, or all of it? And she said, oh, I don't have any money, you know, and just like treated me like dirt. Um, Georgie and I were running costumes at the old Valentine's Club in Memphis. And uh, I saw a girl that owed me um, like $300. There was a girl I worked with and used to dress a lot. I used to give her rides all the time home because she had no car and all that crap. And man, she just treated me like dirt. And George was sitting right there in the dressing room with me, running costumes. And I'm like, there's that girl that owes me that money. And I asked her, I said, hey, I said, you remember that you got all those outfits from me? And she was even wearing one of the outfits, and it was like a year later, okay? And I caught her at that club. And I said, could I please get some of that money you owe me or all of it? And she goes, I'm not paying you nothing. I mean, people are weird. I couldn't collect all that money. So mad. I said, I'm not going to go in any more Steve Cooper clubs because the wenches, charged with me and never pay me. And see, I didn't want to do charge accounts to begin with. And a couple of my competitors talked me, they're like, oh, this is the best way to make some money because you got them by the yin yang because they got to have the outfit and they will pay you. Even if it's like in a couple of payments, you'll get your money and you just make so much more money. I said, man, I just like it better when they just pay me and the deal's done. I got the merchandise, I got my cash. Because the next thing is you have to pay house on the sales. All those sales that were in that book, I had to pay house on, you know. So I said, no more. I'm not doing anymore. I don't charge my stuff, okay? And my competitors would. They would write bad checks in the thousands at the fabric store and sew it up as fast as they could so they could run it out and try to beat the bank. That's bad business. I own all my stuff outright. I had no bank loans for it. I took my money and recycled it back into my business. A portion of it, another portion of it was to maintain the vehicle. You know, another portion of it was for taxes. I mean, I divvied my money up, all the time. And that's how I stayed in business for so many years. And I own all my own stock. Every outfit, every shoe, every boot, every piece of jewelry, I owned it outright. I didn't write bad checks for it. I did not have bank loans for it, any of that crap. None of it, you know? And so, it was so much better. But I've got that book still to this day with all of those debts in it. To this day. I'm big money, showgirls, big money that I could never collect. They go, yeah, I'll go out and do a dance, I'll bring it back to you. And then they would hide, until you left the building and never come back, you know, and pay you. I mean, I caught a girl 2 years later working for a friend of mine. I said, that girl owes me, $275. I could show you in my book. And I had it in, and the owner said, you pay, Red. And every time I would come in, he would stand over her and he'd say, you pay, Red. And I mean, I got it piece by piece by piece, whether it be $10 or $20 every time I come in, until it was finally paid. Because he told her he would fire her. He's the owner of the club. He said, if you don't pay Red, I'll just fire you. See where you work. You know, yeah, some owners would, you know, some owners were good, especially if you had theft. Some owners were good. Otherwise, you ate it. They go, too bad, you know, I'm not helping you out with nothing. And the other ones were like, we will hunt them down to their house to get your merchandise back or the cash. I mean, they would threaten their jobs, everything, because you didn't want a thief in the building at all. You didn't want to work with people like that. So, but yeah, um, that's what you call showgirls around the world. It's a dancer family because we are. We're strictly business. We love each other like family, and we're out to take care of everybody. Um, it's definitely a dancer family. But yeah, so I mean, I've done it for years and years, and it's so unfortunate that I was so naive, under 30, and in my 20s, to fall for people that I really, really trusted. And I mean, I'm not going to say I don't trust anybody today, because I know people are like that. Absolutely trust no one. Don't want to make friends with anybody. And I think that's kind of strange. But I try to love everybody. But it's shameful. And that big money. And I was a brand new parent. My kid was 5 months old, and I was in the middle of a lawsuit still. I'd left the state. I get my money, so many months later, out of a settlement I didn't think I would ever get. It was like a total surprise. I was like, yeah, sure. It's one of those, yeah, I'll believe it when I see it things. And it really happened. And I could have bought a house. I could have done so much with all that money. And they took it from me. And then treated me like crap, like threatened me. That's horrible. You know? Yeah. So, yeah, it's just, don't be fooled by people, because I'm going to tell you, when you give that money away, most of the times you're not going to get it back, um, because they're just not going to do it. And they'll do it again and again to the next one, the next one, the next one. Whenever I borrow money from people, I have, a few friends I can borrow a little bit of money from, and it's because I've always paid them back. And then I've had friends through my life that would give me money anytime I want, and I don't have to pay a penny. Okay? It's just, my problem is I have trouble asking. Okay? I do. I have trouble asking. Because I'm not going to ask till it's like almost entirely too late. You know? That's just me. I hate to ask people for stuff. Although people love to ask me all day long like it's nothing. Um, you know, uh, I helped a guy that was living in a storage over there at that complex I was at before, and he was a carpenter, and he supposedly gone through a bad divorce and all this crap. And he ended up living in this little storage unit, and he had no work, and all of a sudden he got this job, and he was late on his rent, and they were going to lock him out, so then he'd have no place to sleep. And it was like really pitiful. And he was just a nice person. I'd see him on occasion through the complex and stuff. Funny character. Yep. And and so I told him, I said, I would ask my boss if I could get an advance. You've worked for him, like the whole week. And the guy was supposed to pay him at the end of the week, every week, in cash or something. I said I would ask him for an advance because, I mean, that's like, your roof, living in a little storage unit. And I'm like, it's really important. And um, so he said, well, I'll try that. And he asked the guy, and then he called me. He said he's going to loan it to me, at, before I leave work. And I said, yeah, well, guess what? They're going to lock that unit up when they close the office. So you need to see if you can get it earlier. I'll even come down and get it from you at work if you can make that arrangement. And so then he called me back about 30 minutes later. He said, yeah, if you want to go ahead and come on down here. I had to drive all the way to Navarre. What a nightmare that was. And all the traffic, like an hour back and like hour and a half. Hour out there, an hour and a half back just in traffic. And to go get that money. And he promised to give me extra and pay my gas and all that. And I think it was, he owed like 150 or something like that. 175. I don't know. I got a copy of the receipt even today. And uh so I said, okay, I'll drive out there and go get it. So I went up to the office and I had the money. I was doing a lot of storage auctions and I was making good money with them. And so I went up to the office and I paid them, and I got a copy of the receipt because I paid it. And I said, if this joker doesn't pay me because I don't know him, and it's just an acquaintance, I said, can I put my own lock on his storage if he doesn't pay me? Because I'm going out there to get that money. And they're like, yep. So I drove out there and brought him a big soda pop. As I stopped at the drive through and got a soda pop. And it was like really hot that day, and he was doing roof work. And so I gave him a big soda pop, and he said, hold on a second. And then he came back down off the roof, and then he gave me the money at the car door and said, thank you so much. I said, yeah, well, here's your receipt. Because I told him he had to pay it before they closed the office. He'd have never made it because he was going to get off work at like 5 or 6. So anyway, I said, yeah, well, I already paid it. So there. So he gave me only the amount for the storage. He told me he would take care of me later for my gas and a little extra for my time. A little tip. Well, I never got that either. So I wasted all my gas and all my time, and not working, taking off work to go do a favor for an acquaintance. And yeah, saved his butt, saved his royal butt. Okay. So you would be surprised a lot of times. I mean, I was lucky I got my money back, I guess, at all. But, and I didn't even know the guy. I just figured he was making an effort, and, you know, uh, that I happened to have the money to do it to help him and all that stuff. So just be careful and don't be fooled by people because I got taken for many thousands of dollars, many thousands. And I was very young, and that was very wrong. And Michael and Linda Brown were older than me. They were like in their 40s, okay, grown people. And my aunt was in very well, and you know, businessman and all that kind of crap, and ripped me off. And I was a brand new mommy. Yep. and I wasn't on welfare. I didn't get child support, any of that. So yeah, um, and I was actually looking at houses too. That was so sad. Oh, because there was one house I wanted to buy there, and I really liked it. I just didn't know how long I could tolerate Oklahoma, which I didn't stay real long. I hated it. It was just too country, you know. And my so-called friends and acquaintances, they were all just, um, they couldn't see like the sun for the clouds. I mean, they always had problems with people. They always, a lot of gossipy talk and all that kind of stuff. And I just wasn't into all that, you know. Um, uh, I missed the city and all the great varieties of food and places to go and see and all that stuff. And I wanted so much more for my kid. I sure didn't want her to be speaking Southern accent and all that stuff. From hanging around people that were Southern. I was like, oh God, if we stay too long, she'll start talking Southern. Um, and but yeah, don't be fooled by people. You would be surprised, especially when you're young. People will tell you everything in the world. Oh, I love you. You're my sister. You're my brother. You are family to me. I would do anything for you. You know, um, uh, I would beat their butt for you. I would do anything in the world. Don't worry about it. Everything's cool. Blah, blah, blah. They're lying to you. They're just telling you a bunch of stuff, and really it boils down to one thing: you can't trust anybody but yourself. That's a fact, because you can guarantee that you're going to do what you're going to do. You can't guarantee what other people are going to do. And if they will always respect you, always be your friend, if they will pay you back, if they will never talk dirt about you, if they'll always be there for you, I'm telling you. There's a lady named Laura Wilson that used to own a Snug Harbor restaurant in Marina Del Rey. I was a minor. I had fake ID. My brothers got me into that club. Used to party in that club, eat the finest steaks and seafood in that club for free. Laura was a great woman. And um, man, I'll tell you, my biggest dream was to be a liquor bartender back then. It's like, man, that's the job to get, you know. And so, um, you know, I was I went to the bathroom, and Big Laura was in there, the owner of the restaurant. She was a very stern woman. She reminded me of something like out of Gunsmoke or something. The old madam that runs the cocktail lounge. She's a very large frame woman, big boob woman, dark hair, kind of Elizabeth Taylor looking, and I mean, when she spoke, people listened. All right, she didn't fool around, man, and I had ultimate respect for her. Very stern woman, and anyway, she I was in the loo, and and she was in there, and Kitty Amanda Blake. I don't, remind me of that High Chaparral or Gunsmoke or whatever. The older lady that was the madam that wore the big low cut dress with the big boobs and the big hat, and you know, kind of thing like that. And then also looked like Elizabeth Taylor. And she was a very tall woman. Okay, she almost looked like a dude, and she had a deep voice, and you just didn't mess around with Laura. But she was your friend. You had it made in the shade because she was there for you. If you needed $5, if you needed a meal, she was there for you and anybody else. And a lot of people burned her when her club closed. She had liquor charges with customers and her best customers. And God, as soon as the doors closed, I went with her one time to go try to collect all that money. And they were like, so what? The club's closed, so I don't owe you any money. And it's like, it was terrible. I was like, oh my God. But anyway, I was in the loo and she was in there too. And she said something about friends or something. And I said, I got friends all over the state of California, from San Francisco all the way to San Diego. I've got hundreds of thousands of friends. And I always make new friends every day. She said, yeah. She said, well, if you got 5 friends you can count on one hand that call you every day and just ask you how you're doing. You can pull your drawers down and I'll kiss your butt right here. And I was like, whoa. And I'm like, I have thousands, thousands. She said, no, you don't. They call you every day and check on you. They really care about you. They ask how you're doing. I'm like, well, no. Just I see them when I see them or whatever. She said, well, you don't have any real true friends. And I'm like, that's not true. Yeah. I'm going to tell you, all these years later, that's true, what she said. But when you're under 30, you'll believe and fall for all kinds of stuff. People will really lead you on. They will try to hustle you. They will try to talk you into giving your things away, loaning them stuff. If you never see it again, you're not getting paid back. It's such a small percentage of people that will still respect you and will actually pay you back or repay the favor, any of that, because they're not going to. It's just, and I mean, I've known people that were, well to do, had businesses, whatever, years later, and I didn't get crap. I'm not talking about people who just went down the tubes and became drug addicts and drunks and losers and lived on the street. I'm talking about all kinds of different people. You would be surprised. These people you so believed in, so trusted, and you really thought you're doing the greatest thing in the world, helping them out. No, it didn't do crap. Yep, because the minute you try to even ask for any of it back, even a small little tiny portion, and they're going to cuss you out and threaten to beat you up, kill you, whatever. Trust no one but yourself. I'm telling you. When it comes to money or material items that you loan, gift, any of that, it's a problem. Especially with friends or family. Even car deals and stuff really scary to do with friends or family because they can go really bad too. Um, and it doesn't go well. So that's just from me and the peanut gallery. And I hope you guys learn from that. And any of you young folks out there, I hope you listen to what I'm telling you because you would never believe all these great people that you think your brother, your sister, whatever. You know, I have one family that like kind of raised me when I left home, and I'm going to tell you that I mean to this day they're still my family, and will probably be till I die. And those are the only real people, you know, that I've had around me that were just real all these years, even all these years later. But that's about it. And I've known them since I was 15 and a half when I left home. But other than that, man, you know, you'd be surprised. So don't fall for all that, and um, you know, don't cut yourself short where you're going to miss your rent or your utility payment or your car payment or whatever it is, or take food out of your kids' mouths or your own to help a so-called friend that's going to hate you later and never pay you because it's a very, very tiny little percentage of those that actually do pay you back anything at all if they do. So, yeah, you're taking a risk. You're falling for a bunch of stuff. These people are not your real friends, and I promise you, years later, they're not going to be either. All those hundreds of thousands of friends I had all over the state of California, I had phone books after phone books of people's phone numbers, addresses, people I knew at all these different businesses and clubs I used to go to and everything else. And I'm telling you, they just like fall off the face of the earth. It, it's nothing, nothing. So yeah, um, I hope you learn from what I'm telling you because it's really fact. May I have so much dollars as a gift to pay my life? Yeah, I mean, I've given away a lot to people, from cars to clothes to food, paid rent. I've turned a girl's utilities on because she was going to lose her kid, and the welfare found out that she had no way to heat the house, um, and I just went down and paid it and told them not to ever tell her who paid it, and it was like $500. I'd pay all her back bill with the interest and turn on fee and all that other stuff, and I paid it, you know, because she was going to lose her son, and that was he was a retarded kid, and then he grew up one day and turned out straight. It was really strange, and it was my babysitter's daughter, Miss Stagg's daughter, and it was her little boy. It was born retarded, and I went and paid the utilities on her rental house, so they would turn them back on for the heat. Yep, yep, and I never told them it was me or anything else. I got, you know, a receipt to show I paid for it. And I just told electric people, I said, just, call her up and tell her that the stuff's on and it's taken care of. And it was like right before Christmas. I think it was around Thanksgiving when I did that. And it was really cold time of the year. And I've done stuff like that, where people didn't even know. And I didn't want them to know. I was hoping they'd never find out, even though in the South people tend to talk a lot. um, and I never expected anything back. It was just something I felt I had to do. And I was making huge money back then anyway. Um, and her mom was a great babysitter. They were great, great, great people. Um, Although my daughter, said recently some bad stuff about them, and I don't know if that's true or not. I don't understand. I never really felt like there was anything real bad over there. I really trusted those people. But anyway, but yeah, so um, just be careful. Be careful who you trust. Be careful who you befriend. Um, like I said, all these years later, all those people that I've ever known in my lifetime, okay, all those people from California, God, it's like five today. Five of them today that, I could call whenever and they would still be there for me today. Um, and one I've been in touch with like every month, um, all these years later. But the rest, good luck, And a lot of those jokers rolled out anyway because they were so far off, in party world that it killed them from drinking to drugging and all that fast lane back home. They just, a lot of them died long before me and didn't even get married or have kids or anything else. They couldn't get away from that party life. And it will kill you. It will kill you. It will get a hold of you. It'll take everything you have. It's a big grown up world out there. Life is not a party all the time. You know, um, it's like very serious. Don't waste, time because it will fly. You know, I mean, I can think of when I was 12 years old, just like yesterday. Before I was 21, when I turned 21. I mean, like it was yesterday. But you know what? Time flies. Time flies so quickly. Do your time well every day. Make every day worth something. Don't waste your time with people that are probably not going to be around for you years later and were fake to begin with. Be very, very careful. All right? I love you guys. I'm freezing right now. And I got to go drive so I can go to my night destination. I love ya. Do something kind for a stranger. I will see you in the next one.